How many Armenians marched? Comment in the comment section. I didn't look it up. I don't even know if there's a rough estimate. I imagine there is somewhere. What am I referring to? I'm talking about the march from the one that Pashinyan announced. They're marching from like the government section to a graveyard where some of the troops were buried. And I read Pashinyan's speech. You can go and watch that if you want to know what he said, the rough English translation. So I read that, but I didn't look until a day or two later at footage of the march. And somebody, sent up a drone. On Armin Press, there's a slideshow or a series of stills. So I looked through that today, but yesterday, I think it was, I came across some drone footage of the march, I guess it's called a march, of the Armenians in solidarity walking toward the cemetery. And that was a lot of people. I mean, it went on and on. I mean, this drone was flying over it. The pictures don't do it justice. The still images don't do it justice because you can't, unless you get kind of a satellite image looking down at the whole thing. The drone was just flying on and on and on. It wasn't cutting out and repeating. It was just flying on. And it was, I know Armenia has 3 million people in it. I think Yerevan itself has 1 million. And so I don't know if everybody in Yerevan marched, but I'm sure people came from all over the place to march. Those of you who know more details, comment. I'll read the comments on this video. I'd like to know if there's an estimate or a guesstimate of how many there were. There were a lot. And I imagine, there were also, what I read is there were some protesters or some anti-Pashinyan types that tried to block them from getting into the cemetery, etc. And that's all. I get it. It's part of the mourning process, really. I mean, there are stages of shock, stages of grief. When you just lost a war. I mean, that did not end in Armenia's favor, but I can't imagine there was any other option outside of like America stepping in and sending troops or something. Like, I don't know what. I don't want to meditate on that right now, but so I get emotional when I see this kind of stuff. And why do I get emotional? Especially when I was looking at the stills. I went through the slideshow, I guess, starting, it started with on Pashinyan and those, obviously security all around him, and then some wide shots of the march, and some long shots, and I guess the cemetery's in kind of a, out of town. I don't know how. Oh, just give me all the details you can. How long was the march? How far? What was the distance that they marched? How many people were there? Put it in the comment section. And but then, so the slideshow was chronological, and so then it got to the cemetery, and the fresh flowers on some fresh graves. That I welled up in tears. I'm looking at what I imagine is a father at his son's grave, and there's a picture. You can see the picture of the son, in his military garb, and that father realizing he's never going to see his son again. It was that moment that I welled up. I started crying, and it's a righteous indignation cry. You Turks and Azeris who always, the ones who say this, there's a bunch of Turks and Azeri commenters that they just put one word, cry, right? They'll comment on a video and they'll say cry. And I understand that they're being ruthless or heartless or nasty with that word, Like cry because you lost, cry babies, cry. And I know that's the intent. But it's kind of a weak diss or a weak insult. I guess unless you take it with the intent that they had, then it's, you know, it's a malicious insult. But cry? What's wrong with crying? Crying is a good thing. Like, if you don't cry, you're not human, right? If you think crying is a sign of weakness, you've already lost. If you think crying is weakness, I'm sad for you. I'm sad for you, and then I laugh. It's just an upside down view of reality. To mourn is human. To mourn gets God's attention, right? When you mourn righteously, there's power in it. And there's mourning. I am a Christian. I believe in eternal life. I believe that the righteous dead are only temporarily disembodied. And I know there's a percentage of you, even of my faithful followers, who roll your eyes at that, but I'm going based on evidence. Okay? And we can have that discussion. Maybe this isn't the place for it, but I'm going based on evidence. You know, first-hand experience and historical evidence. And I even use Soghomon Tehlirian's memoir as some of that evidence. I mean, it's he communicated, or the dead communicated with him, his dead mother, and not just his dead mother, but others communicated with him at significant moments in his life. You can't call it a hallucination. You can't even call it post-traumatic stress disorder. He was aware of other things happening that he was a part of. Again, I won't go into it here, but so for those of you, few Azeris and Turks who are still watching this, when you tell me to cry, I cry, but not because you tell me to cry, but I cry, and when I cry, I feel the divine, the power. All right. I'm going to try, you know, this is a channel that is open for Christians, and I do talk about Christian things, but not in this video. But I'm just saying the power of unanimity, the power of all those people walking, the power of mourning for the dead and righteous indignation. And me, non-Armenian, thousands and thousands of miles away, just looking at pictures, crying in solidarity. And share this video. I gotta keep remembering to tell every now and then, you know, people watch this that have never watched my videos before, and if I don't say subscribe, you watching this, if you haven't subscribed, click that button and then share the video and comment. Tell me everything you know about this march. I know it was 3 days of mourning, and on the first day there was a march, but please subscribe, share, comment, like, and click the notification bell, because you'll get notified every time I post a video, which is every day and maybe a couple times a day. Surprise, surprise. All right, that's enough. Love you guys. I do.